Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and in today's episode is another collecting type of episode, and the thing that I'm going to pull out of my collection is my cards. Okay, so like a lot of people, we like to collect cards, whether it be baseball cards or Pokemon cards or hockey cards. But in anime, one of the very first card systems that I collect a lot of was Sailor Moon cards. Now again, I was getting into the craze of Sailor Moon, and there was this big wealth of different sort of cards that were available for Sailor Moon. And again, we started to collect all the different types and all the different series of Sailor Moon cards and all the different variations of Sailor Moon that there are, whether it be regular Sailor Moon S or SS or Stars. They all had different sets of cards that were available and in different styles. Now, I'm just going to go through my, I basically started collecting not only cards, but all the other things that came with the cards and things that had merchandise with Sailor Moon, because again, anime was sort of still brand new, and people were still out to collect as many of the different things that were available for anime, be it cards or stationery, shiriki, or even figurines and that kind of stuff. People are all experimenting on what to sell and what people would want to buy. And again, I was interested in buying a lot of this different type of material and different type of merchandise that was available for Sailor Moon. And this is my collection. So I collected a binder that's this thick, which is your standard 3-inch thick binder, full of Sailor Moon cards and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go through really quickly. So I'm going to use the B-roll and that kind of stuff to go through it, and I'll explain and give you stories of what I encountered when I was running my store, when I was selling cards, and when I was obtaining cards in regards to that. And I'm sure that people have large collections of other kind of cards, be it Sailor Moon cards or Dragon Ball cards. Pokemon, of course, is a really big set that has lots of cards. Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, has lots of different cards as well. So and then of course, this is also in the beginning of the craze of Magic: The Gathering cards. Of course, that's the first of the collectible trading card game systems that are out there. Of course, there's quite a few more new gaming card systems that are out now. But in today's episode, I'm just going to focus on Sailor Moon because that's one of the things I spent a lot of time collecting, and in this collection, I'll go through it with you really quickly. All right, so. In addition to Sailor Moon cards, one of the things I collected a lot of, there are different sizes of Sailor Moon cards. My favorite character is Sailor Mars. So in the very front of my card set collection, of course, is my Sailor Mars stuff, and then all the special type of cards. So there's, for example, bookmarks and that kind of stuff. In one of my collecting sets, there's these large sort of pictorial cards for the various different characters. They're almost like a photograph in size. And of course, I've got quite a few many different, shall we say, almost what they would refer to as nudes, almost for them. And of course, one of the special collection ones of that particular set is this clear Sailor Jupiter card. That's I also got that as one of the limited sets. So again, Sailor Mars, there's a whole bunch of these postcards that came with the Sailor Moon stuff, and of course I saved all the Sailor Moon pictures for Mars specifically. So that's that. There's these Sailor Moon S shinies that come out of the S set, and so I've got the Sailor Mars of that particular one. As I said, in addition to cards, I also collect the shiriki, which is the writing boards. So for those people who don't know what a shiriki is, it's basically when you've got a notebook and you're writing on the front page of the notebook or notepad, you sometimes write so hard with the pen that you write right through and make an imprint on the second page or the blank page underneath it. So the way that the Japanese have got around this issue is they invent a writing board, which is basically a stiff plastic-covered board, which you're supposed to slip in between the two sheets, and basically it allows you a softer writing surface for your front page, but it also protects the page underneath. So, and of course, they always put these nice sort of anime figures and that kind of stuff on it. So then this is, again, Son of Mars would be my favorite. I've got a bunch of writing boards for that. Okay. Okay, so this is Mars from Sailor Moon Super S. Okay. Again, Mars is being my favorite. I've got a shiny bookmark for that, as well as the many different types of shinies. Now, you'll notice on this page, it's she's got a similar picture across several different sets and by different card makers. Okay, so of course they have the original Japanese versions as well as the knockoff versions that they made in like Hong Kong or China or whatever of them. Now the variations that they always try to do is they always try to find a different way to sell the cards. So not only do they have the regular plain card version, they also have a shiny reflective version. Usually a lot of the shiny reflective versions are also stickers. So they promote you to buy more different versions of it. Some of the original ones I have, of course, is the foil version of the Sailor Moon S version here, which is a Mars and a kind of outline. Okay, so again, more of my Mars collection here in different figurines. Again, I tried to match up the variation. Now these cards become really collectible and hard to get. Because first of all, to get the original set, it was really difficult to find people that had these particular cards and particularly traded them because again, you had to, of course, get multiple sets or multiple packs of cards in order to get the shiny cards or the rare cards out of them. That of course led to a lot of the Chinese shops in Chinatown and in Richmond, especially Yaohan Center and places like Crystal Mall, Aberdeen Center. They all contain little shops and little toy type stores and collectible type stores, which carried usually a couple sheets of Sailor Moon cards that people would go in there and try to get. Like different kind of cards for, and of course, they always have different styles. Not all of them, of course, authentic ones. Of course, a lot of them are the Hong Kong knockoff like stickers or shiny stickers and that kind of stuff that they had for them. But again, we had many different things that are available. So people collected what they could. And so basically, I that's why I ended up going through and collecting as many of these type of cards, and including bookmarks as I could. Not everything. I didn't collect every single a card from a particular set by character. I collected a lot of the ones that I liked or had the particular pose that I thought was rather kind of neat or unique that I could keep together. In this era, when I was selling these different kind of cards, the regular card of a regular set, especially if it was a Japanese one, would sell for 50 cents, maybe to $1. The Hong Kong ones would usually sell for like 25 cents. So pretty much the same you would pay for like a Pokemon card nowadays. Usually the shinies would usually cost you $1. If it was like a Hong Kong knockoff one, around $1, all the way up to like maybe about $5 when you get to the shinies or to the silvery type kind of cards, and those unique ones, which are usually labeled, maybe only 3 to a set or something like that, like WLs or something like that, could be up to like $10 a card. But yeah, we had them all separated in the binders, for those people who are looking for those type of cards, and there's some. Since my store was located very close to a high school, I'd often get a lot of girls coming in, and sure the occasional guys too, looking for different type of cards and that kind of stuff. I remember one particularly funny story when I was at my first store on Renfrew. Had a person who traveled quite a ways. He had the he worked at a computer supply place in Richmond, although his residence was up higher above North Vancouver, so a long commute. But I was along the way, and I remember he brought his his daughter in, okay, and I think she was probably in like early high school, maybe elementary school type of thing. And for a better name, I'm just gonna call her Kylie, as in like Kylie Minogue. All right. I'm not gonna say what her real name is, but let's just say it begins with K. No, she came in. She's really shy. Okay, but one of the things that she really loved to do was go through Sailor Moon cards. So whenever he come in, to pick up his videos, he'd bring her along, and she'd look through cards, and while the dad would be flipping through anime, and of course looking at the various Bubble Crisis, Project Echo, and all that kind of cool stuff. While like she's flipping through Sailor Moon and that kind of stuff. And, he'd buy a couple bucks worth of cards or whatever for him. And I remember one day, one of the cute things is that I remember she came in and with her dad, and she asked if she can go to the washroom. And one of the jokes that we had in our washroom is someone bought a sign from the Rona, which is right across the street. He bought a no dumping sign. And he decided to post that up by the right in front of the toilet in the washroom. And of course, she goes in there and she sees the sign. She comes back out and tells her dad, there's a sign that says no dumping in there. And she goes, oh yeah, don't worry about that sign. Just go ahead. Are you sure? Yeah, let's go ahead. So it's really cute that she actually she actually picked up on that. Anyway. Fast forward a tad little bit. One day she came out. She was really, really depressed, and apparently what had happened is that somebody had, she brought her Sailor Moon cards. I guess she's showing them off at school and whatnot, and someone had broken into her locker and stole her Sailor Moon cards. I mean, she was devastated by this thing. And of course, her dad brought her in and said, "Oh, don't worry about it. You can come in." And you can, you can go ahead and pick up some new cards and then buy some cards. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, go ahead, pick up that. And and I actually pulled out this binder, and I have different sections of this particular binder that I'm going through here. So anyway, they are going through, and I gave her a couple cards out of my special binder, to make her feel a little bit better. And and of course, the dads are like amazed, like, wow. These things are getting really expensive. He goes, yeah, that's what happens, right? These are really popular, and that's why kids, really like this. So she ended up picking up, like $30, $40, $50 worth of cards, if I remember right that day. She picked up all these, some of the special cards she was missing that she really, really liked, and started to rebuild her collection. The funny thing about it is that several years later. Okay, I haven't seen him come by for a while because I guess he was moving and transitioning from like place to place or whatever. But then after I moved the store a couple times, and it was at my Slocum Street location. He brought he came by again. He brought his daughter again, and now she's much older. I'd have to say she was in her later high school years. And she goes, she comes in, and she's got a different attitude about anime and different things like that. And then we came up to again the story where he tells me that says, there's this time where she got her locker broken into and she lost all her Sailor Moon cards, and she was like so devastated and cried. She had to come in and buy some new Sailor Moon cards, and of course I think she did remember. But she kind of went, no, I don't remember that. I certainly don't remember that. And I think deep down inside she sort of remembered it, but she's like kind of embarrassed to admit that she kind of like was acting like that. But I think we all were kind of like that when we first got our cards all destroyed by our parents at one time. So this is of course something that unforeseenly happened, and of course there are more drastic stories of stuff that happened in schools over cards, especially during the Pokemon era and the Magic card era, when that first started. People getting their cards stolen, and weapons being brandished and things like that. All occurred over cards. And that's why a lot of these things like Pokemon cards and Magic cards and that kind of stuff aren't allowed in schools and stuff like that, because it promotes a lot of problems of theft and all this other stuff. So card trading has significantly changed over the times. Okay. So that was one of the stories I had for that. And as the collecting, and as later as time gone by, and and as a lot of these things started showing up on eBay, a lot more scrutiny has gone over the cards as to whether or not the cards are authentic or not authentic. I remember the whole entire concept of this of people selling cards and that kind of merchandise, like plushies and that kind of stuff. At conventions was always another issue, because there was always this big thought of whether or not the cards were authentic or not, because whether or not they're stickers or Hong Kong knockoffs and that kind of stuff. And again, it's all because is that when something becomes popular and there's enough value in the price of the item compared to how much it costs to make the item, then this thing of bootlegging and piracy all can occur. Usually things like the printed products tend to be a little bit easier to do, because of course people have access to printable type of machinery and that kind of stuff, presses and that kind of stuff to make that kind of stuff. But when you get to something a little bit harder, like CDs and that kind of stuff, then you're really going to need some highly specialized equipment to be able to do that kind of stuff. And that's why CDs and that kind of stuff are a little different story. Again, I covered a little bit about that topic when I did the whole thing about the SM records out of Taiwan. And again, that's probably a slightly different story, and again, a little bit of a different sort of topic when we get into that. But I'll cover more of that in a future episode. So you want to hit subscribe so that you can get those notifications when I get those episodes done. Later in the back of my book here, I've got all the group shots. And one of the things that they released later on in the cinema set was card sets that if you got a couple of cards and you put them together, they'll make one bigger card. So here's a layout of some of the cards that came out that was, if you buy 2 cards, you can make one sort of picture together out of it, as well as I got the card which shows the whole picture together as one. So collecting cards was, it was always a fun thing to do. Again, unlike some people who pay attention to the numbers on the back of the cards and try to collect the entire set. I was just more interested in collecting the cards that were more, they're part of a sequence, or they have my favorite type of character. There are other sort of trinkets and that kind of stuff that are available at that time. But again, I'll get to that in another episode, where we'll get into other sort of things that were available, maybe figurines and other things like that came out at this time. Okay. So if you want to get more episodes of the history of fan anime and how animation grew so popular in North America, then you want to hit subscribe below and hit like below, so that way you get notifications of when my new episodes come out. All right, I know I got lots of more episodes coming out with CDs, and of course we're going to cover some more all the different videos that Arctic Animation had subtitled, and some of the stories behind how those episodes and those different series came out. So you want to hit subscribe and get to know those. All right, and so, like they say in the end of Elgheim, I will see you again.